Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Lady Justice Talks, where curiosity meets law. Today, you're here with your host, Anita, and we have a very special guest with us, Hamna Anwar, an amazing criminal defense lawyer here. Please introduce yourself. Welcome.
Hi, Anita. Thank you so much for having me, first of all. Hello, everyone. My name's Hamna Anwar. I'm a criminal defense lawyer. I practice in Toronto at a firm called Lindsay Law. Other than criminal defense, I'm very active in the community. I volunteer my time helping young women reach their potential in getting into law, and I also volunteer formally, mainly right now for women in Canadian criminal defense, which has a really cool name called Wicked, and I'm sure I'll talk lots about Wicked during this podcast.
Yeah, this is going to be a very exciting episode, and a lot of our viewers were waiting for, because a lot of our viewers are into going into criminal law and all of those, so this is going to be very exciting. So just to start off kind of easy and broad, what made you get into criminal law and keeps you passionate to keep going for this journey?
So I think my personal lived experience really shaped my decision to practice criminal defense law, and one of the main reasons was growing up as a Pakistani immigrant in Canada. And for anyone who is an immigrant, you go through such resilience and adversity. You're always sort of the outsider looking in. You have this sense of otherness. So I wanted to do something for myself. My mom was a very much a powerhouse in our lives. She really pushed us, her daughter specifically, and her son to make sure we reach our highest potential. So she wanted us to do something with our lives. And of course, for immigrants, that's doctors, lawyers, or engineers. So early on, I didn't exactly think that I wanted to be a lawyer. It sort of just manifested as my journey came along. I was pursuing becoming a veterinarian, and soon I realized I'm not good at the sciences and was not doing well whatsoever. So I transitioned into anthropology. I did a master's in anthropology, and I believe we'll talk a little bit later about that. And once I got into law school, that in itself was quite challenging to first get in because, as you may know, there's without any resources or mentorship, it's very daunting. The process is quite intense. The statement and the LSAT. I'm always upfront about it. It was always very challenging for me. So once I got in, I knew I wanted to do social justice related law. I wanted to work with real people. I wanted to help people. So for me, in a naive manner, I thought that might be criminal law or immigration law. And once I took an immigration law class, it didn't attract me as much as it did before I had taken it. So I gravitated naturally towards criminal defense law. And a big part of that was the attraction of being a litigator, being in the courtroom almost daily, dealing with a unique niche in our society. And that's generally a very marginalized group of people who have lots and lots of struggles. People come to you as a criminal defense lawyer in the most vulnerable situations when they're quite, their lives might be upside down. So all of that combined with the sort of the pull to be an advocate for someone in need really manifested my drive to become a criminal defense lawyer. And that has stayed till this day.
No, that's very amazing. Like, as somebody who, my mom is also like the powerhouse
Yeah.
of our house, and also I resonated with you talking about like going through different subjects. Like, I thought I was actually going to go into arts and then sciences, maths. Like, I went through everything before I decided that I want to go into law too. But I also love, for me, I love being in like business environments and all of those, but I also love, like, I'm a people's person. I love working with people. So that's like, I completely resonate with what you said about regarding joining law. And in regards to people, like you said, you love working with people and your clients. And I know as a criminal lawyer, there's like a lot of hard cases, serious, emotional cases that you deal with. How do you how do you make your clients feel supported or help them with their trauma or experience that they're going through while keeping yourself like calm and everything just being like emotionally stable and all of those.
So the first thing you have to do as a criminal defense lawyer, you have to um, meet each case from a blank slate. Like you can't assume just because someone is charged with an X offense that they are. You can't have stereotypes against them. So
Mm-hmm.
when we meet with clients in our initial consultation, we don't know anything about them other than what they have been charged with. So when clients come to me, I'm open to listening to their story, the circumstances that led them to the position that they're in before me. So the trauma informed training, I actually got that through Barbara Slifer Commemorative Clinic. That was to volunteer on a pro bono basis with their criminalization of women program, and that's just to acknowledge that sometimes women are the intersectionality of marginalization from various formats, like they might have precarious immigration status, they might have child custody problems, they might be racialized, they might be poor, and it's not like one separate thing. As you know, intersectionality is a combination of all of that. So the trauma informed part of it is realizing that someone is in a position where they may be today, but the lead up of that is sort of there's no judgment behind that. There's circumstances that led someone to be in the position they're in, and you come to that knowing that they may react to situations differently. When you ask them certain questions, for example, about the case or the facts that led to them being criminally charged, it could be triggering for them because many people are victims of assault, victims of sexual assault, and sometimes they end up in situations when they get criminally charged because they are either defending themselves or whatever the case might be. So you have to be very sensitive about who you're speaking with and how you respond. And it's very important for people to feel cared for people to feel like they can trust their lawyer with their stories because it's not like the way we see it on TV. People are very quite vulnerable when they come to you. They're scared to even talk to lawyers because they think you're going to be this intense person.
Yeah.
They're very intimidated, and you have to, people appreciate that I'm very down to earth. I'm very easy to talk to, and they appreciate that because they want to feel like they can use plain language and speak to me. So the judgment-free part of it is encapsulated with the trauma informed, that you don't judge someone for the charge they're facing, and you don't judge someone for the circumstances they've gone through, because people have so much history that we don't know about until you hear the story, and then you're like, wow, like this is important, and this has to be brought before a judge, and this is important for me to know as their lawyer.
Yeah, that's you touched upon a really great point, and I've always had this question. This would be more on your side for yourself. When you're dealing with clients that come from all different backgrounds, that come from all different circumstances and traumas, different stories, everything, how do you keep yourself from not becoming emotionally or mentally drained or just too like involved? Because I know there needs to be a balance, and for you, like you said, for example, when you're looking at a client's case, you have to come at it with a clean slate, right? But as you learn the story and as you work with them and go on, how do you keep yourself from not becoming too emotionally invested or mentally invested?
So I have to admit that I struggle with that still, because it's so natural for you to become so attached to a case and so attached to someone's story. So I don't want to pretend like I have that all figured out. I think I still struggle with that because
Yeah.
whatever file I'm working on, I get consumed by it. And sometimes I even have like dreams or nightmares about it because you're constantly thinking about it, right? It's not just a file, it's someone's life, it's someone's current circumstances, and you're in touch with them, you're in constant communication with your clients. So you have to find ways to draw boundaries, and I'm still learning to do that. Of course, you can say there's no communication on the weekend or the evenings, but it's not that if just because you're not communicating on something, that thing goes away. If you're working on something throughout the day, it's natural for you to think about it while you might be folding your laundry or doing the dishes, just like because you care for it so much that it's on your mind, and you're always thinking of ways to help the clients out. So I don't have a system in place yet. I do try to take a mental break because obviously it can lead to burnout, and constantly thinking about the same thing could be quite draining. At the end of the day, we are human still. Like we act as buffers. We take in so much of our clients' stress and just dealing with like the police and the crowns and difficult court situations, that there comes a point when you also need to sort of just let go and be be you, right? You're always defending people, and you're defending them, and and I often tell people when they retain me to represent them, I say, you know what, just give me all your stress, and I want you to walk out of here feeling like you can relax a little bit, take a breather, that you can trust me. But that obviously comes at a cost, and it comes at my own expense
Yeah.
because I am constantly thinking about these things. I think that's with any lawyer that cares about the work they do, though. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Obviously, I'm pre law, so I still haven't been in your, like, nowhere near your position before. But that's like one of my biggest fears when I think about it. Like, when I think about what type of law I want to go to, like criminal or even like family or any of those that deals with like people like straight on, and emotionally, especially criminal law. That's like one of my biggest fears because I obviously have not been in that position, but I've also worked in like customer
Mm-hmm.
facing roles, and like as of right now, and there's been times where I also, like you said, like I go home in the weekend and I'm like still thinking, what I also don't have a system in place. Like it just like also haunts me for a few days until like
Mm-hmm.
I start to like reprocess it more. But one of the things I try to think about is how like I did the best I could. Like it wasn't that I didn't try. I like did everything I could, every alternative, every possible solution I had. I took it to make sure I can help my client. And then I also think about like I have this thing where I think about like whatever's meant to happen
Mm-hmm.
will happen eventually, especially if I've done everything I could in my willpower. So that's something that at least keeps me a little more
Yeah.
calm, knowing that I tried for whatever clients I'm like working with and help them to my best ability.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because for you to be satisfied with the work you've done, you have to know that you did your best.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we're dealing with such difficult situations that we only have some limited choices. But you have to know, just because someone's in a tough situation, you're not taking an easy way out. You did whatever you could do and maximize the potential within that situation. And for me, that's really, really important because without it, I won't feel like I'm doing justice to
Mm-hmm.
my work. And it doesn't matter. It's not the big cases. It's every case, every small to big case, because you're dealing with people's lives and they're counting on you and they trust you and they say words like I'll do whatever you tell me because I trust you, and that weighs really, really heavy on me. The other thing is, in terms of sort of helping with that emotional stress of it, you also have to learn, and I certainly do that. You have to tell people that we're actually not trained as therapists. We end up, being people's pseudo therapists, and it's not ideal, and we don't want to. But you have to guide people that you've experienced trauma, or you're going through a divorce, or you're separated from your children. You should seek counseling, and lots of people are very resistant to it. They've never done it,
Yeah.
but when it comes from the lawyer, or sometimes when it helps the case, they are open to it. And by the end of it, they actually realize that this actually did help me because I've never gotten professional help for it. So there are ways that you can guide people in the right direction so they can get the proper
Mm-hmm.
help, because it allows us to do the legal work of it. That is sort of the nature of our work, essentially. But it does come with all the other skills we need to have to help people in this role.
Yeah, that completely makes sense because you can go just a certain amount of
Hmm.
far as
Yeah,
well. Even if you go like a lot of far, there's always gonna be that limit or boundary,
right.
right? Speaking of people's like rights, you've spoken about protecting their rights. So which one do you think are the most risk in the justice system in regards to people's rights?
So I think all rights that people have are very important. Each right has a reason why it exists and why it must be protected under all circumstances. I don't think there's one particular right that I could specifically point to, but I'm
Yeah.
recently finding that the presumption of innocence has been dealt with quite casually recently, because there's lots of media outlets and coverage of certain offenses or certain crimes that have happened that assume from the get-go that people are guilty, and that's not the way we enter any situations, right?
Mm-hmm.
you have
Yes.
you have a right to remain silent. So
Yeah.
no, you don't have to say that, did I do this, did I not do this. You remain silent. We always say you should practice your right to remain silent. And the second is the presumption of innocence. And recently, as you may know, I'm not sure if you're following the news, there's also a lot of pushback on bail and who should be getting bail, and that
Mm-hmm.
we should be essentially tightening up the bail system. And there's
Yeah.
a lot of misinformation. It's very difficult for people to get bail in the first place because a lot of things are getting normalized, like surety bills are getting normalized, and ankle bracelets, and just there's lots of things that are happening, and there's lots of misinformation that I wish there was an educational piece on the public so people would know what the criminal justice system actually entails, and the information is not coming from a media outlet or that's disproportionate to get higher views. So I think that's jeopardizing the way people see offenders going through the criminal justice system, and we're also seeing that it's impacting lawyers, like it's impacting criminal defense lawyers, especially for example in the Hockey Canada sexual assault trial. There was a lot of misinformation about sexual assault cases and women defending men charged with sexual assault cases, and people don't know about the protections in place for victims and complainants in these cases that protect their dignity and privacy. So if those information pieces are out there in the public, people would have a different idea about what is actually happening in the courtroom. And they would actually have respect for the work we do, because honestly, if your family member or you're charged with a criminal offense, you would need and want a criminal defense lawyer. But from afar ways, you just think what criminal defense lawyers are doing is unethical, or sometimes even dirty or fishy. It's absolutely not. It's a very ethical profession, and we're bound with rules we have to follow under the law society. And we do play within and operate within those rules, because without it, like, how can I sleep at night if I'm not doing something ethical?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
No, yeah, exactly. A lot of people that don't study the law or not actively a part of it genuinely have no clue what's going on and like what the procedures are, how everything works. Like it's just because it's also not something, I feel like it's not something that's like presented to the public that easily either. Like you hear about all these cases happening, all these like people getting charged with this and that, but nobody really sees behind the scenes of like how that came to be or the circumstances. Like there's always just so many like you said, it's good to like be open to the public so they can also see what their own rights are as well. And from what it sounds like, you do a lot of research, right? Like research in, I heard research in Islamophobia, misogyny, masculinity, right? Is that what your research like?
Yeah, so I
focuses
did.
on?
Yeah, so I did. Before going to law school, I did a master's in anthropology, where it was the study of it was like the observing and studying a Pakistani Muslim male masculinity within a Canadian national security framework in a post 9/11 context.
That's so niche. I love it.
Yeah, so that was very, very specific, and it was inspired by my own personal lived experience as an immigrant and sort of the challenges that Muslims do experience growing up in a society with its own cultures and norms. So I really enjoyed doing all of that. I think that year of doing my master's was my favorite year in all of my schooling. And I was considering, should I be doing a PhD or should I apply to law school? But then while I was doing my master's, I actually realized that doing research on a group of people and that analysis, as neat as it is, I really wanted to do grassroots work. I wanted to work with people. I didn't want to just sit in an ivory tower and make these observations. I wanted to be in the community. So that was a really good awakening for me to realize that as great as it is to do those studies, and of course those studies are very important because they lead to sometimes even laws and bills, and they go into very useful platforms. But I wanted to do something practical. I wanted to do something hands-on, work with people, like make a change. For example, in criminal defense law, every case you're speaking to a real person, you're impacting their day-to-day lives, and that certainly you don't see while you do research work. So that was a big difference for me.
So, have you seen all of the research that you did? Has it shaped a specific way that you are as a criminal lawyer? Like, how your views or how you practice it? Like, has that research helped you like actually shape how you are as a criminal lawyer?
I absolutely think so. I actually think the fact that I did a master's before going into law school, it gave me more lived experience. It gave me more vision, more exposure to schools and different people. And I think that experience, the diversity of experience going into law school is very important, because so many times, especially for students, you get so fixated on, I want to finish my undergraduate degree, I need certain amount of marks and this LSAT score, and I just want to get in. But it's good to go out, get job experiences, get volunteer experiences, do the master's degree, and then go, because then you may find yourself. I actually found myself to be more mature than my fellow law students, because some of them were coming straight out of undergrad with sort of very sheltered experiences where they lived very cushiony lives, and I was exposed to all sorts of things. So, in terms of a practical point of view, from that perspective, I do think it helped me even solidify what type of work I wanted to do, because a lot of people and some of my friends still struggle to know which area of the law they want to practice. And even though we've graduated for 8 years now, and they haven't found their passion, they haven't found their niche. And I think because I did the legal research and I did all of that work, it helped me know what I like and I don't like, and that could be a very difficult situation sometimes.
Yeah, what I also like to reinforce for myself, and I know we've talked about it in other episodes as well, is that if there is a setback in anybody's, like, I like to remind, like, all my friends or anybody around me when they speak to me about it, that everybody's paths are different. Even if it looks like two people are on the exact same path, there's always going to be, like, a different angle or anything, like, in regards to the path. So it's always good to remind yourself that taking a little step, like I'm going to be taking a little step back. A little step back does not necessarily mean failure, or that you're behind, or that, like, it's not going to go as well as you thought. It's just a way of growth and a way of, like, finding your, like, way back to the original plan and the original
Yeah,
path.
absolutely. I think that's very, very important, because when I was in your shoes, when I was in my fourth year, I felt like I was very behind, because that's when I decided I should be changing my majors from life sciences, because I could no longer be a veterinarian. And then I felt, you feel like a failure. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to take a fifth year. That's just I'm such a dropout. And then, like, seriously, we're so hard on ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And then look what that got me. That gave me clarity, that gave me better marks. And then I actually ended up applying for my master's degree. And at the time, even for my master's degree, I was like, oh my God, I'm 2 years behind than other law students. And then taking time out to do the LSAT, you're just in a go zone, and you realize that's the only way. But no, sometimes taking a different path actually leads you to where you're meant to be.
Yeah,
So never
exactly.
think that you, in the moment, I was the same way. You take so much pressure on, because you constantly compare yourself to your peers, and you feel like you're not doing enough, or you are not enough, or there's so much fear about, am I even going to get into law school? Am I even good enough to get in? So all of those things, just because someone else is able to do one thing doesn't mean you're not able to do it. You just, like you said, it's a path is different. My path was certainly different than so many others, because your life is different. You may have
Yeah.
something personal going on, you may have health issues, you may have a family situation you have to deal with. Sometimes taking a step back, quote unquote, like, bounces you forward, and it gives you the vision and the clarity to actually push through your goals. As long as you know you want something, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter if you're 1 year behind or a couple of months. It does not matter. As long as you end up where you're meant to be and you do a good job of it, that's all that really matters.
Yeah, I genuinely do believe that when they say when one door closes, another door opens, because I've personally experienced it, and I always remind myself to also, like, not, because as, like, law students, like, for example, I'm a part of WILA, and then there's so many other associations. Like, I see so many people, like, being pre-law, studying for the LSAT, applying right now, just generally being in that, like, state. What I always also try to do is to, like, not compare myself, because the only person I can compare myself to is myself, because I'm trying to be a better version of myself. I'm not trying to be a better version of anybody else, which is why that's also another thing that also helps me to remind myself that I shouldn't compare myself to anybody else, because it's,
Right.
again, my life, my circumstances, and myself. And speaking of the woman in law, let's bring it to when you said you were a part of Wicked. So being a part of, can you tell us more about what Wicked is, and how are you part of it? How does it, like, feel as being a defense lawyer, working with women, all of those?
Absolutely. So I love Wicked. Wicked stands for Women in Canadian Criminal Defense. It's a national advocacy organization. We have about 750 members now throughout Canada. That
Wow.
includes lawyers and paralegals. And 750 is a huge number, and it's a small number. But at the end of the day, there's not a lot of women practicing criminal defense law. A lot of young women enter the profession, but then they end up leaving within 3 to 5 years. Like, they transition to different areas of the law, or to the Crown's office. So Wicked is an organization that recognizes that women need a space for themselves to be able to discuss the challenges that we experience as women in this profession, because those are very unique experiences that we have as women. So we have a really wonderful mentorship program. We have a lot of programs that we host for our members, and it's absolutely free. Nothing is paid for. And we also have students, like law students. We welcome them to join just so they start building a community that they need. We have an online listserv that's very helpful, that people reach out to with their legal problems and sort of the guidance they need. We have an active appellate course like mood program. So there's a lot of resources that Wicked offers, and it's absolutely free. I'm also one of the co-editors of the Wicked Brew, which is our e-newsletter, which has all of
Ooh.
our. Yeah, I'll send you a copy because it has such
Definitely.
inspirational stories of
Yeah.
women doing the work we do, and some women from like leaving firms and starting their own practices. And it's very inspiring because as women, not all women want children, but the fact that you want kids, that complicates things even further when you're competing with male counterparts, competing with other people who are younger. So this challenge is unique to women that we experience in a very male dominated field. And Wicked is, I think it's the answer to all of those things. I love being part of it.
No, that sounds like such a great community to be involved in with all the resources, and I'm sure like a lot of people would, a lot of women specifically would want to be a part of that.
Mhm.
Like if I were, I would be want to be too, because I've heard also as a criminal defense lawyer that it is a very male dominated field. Um, would you like to tell us some of your like, if there's been any stories you have that you've dealt with, like for example, let's say you go to the courtroom, as a male dominated field, has it been a different experience from your colleagues, or in regards to clients and how they've treated, let's say, a male colleague versus yourself?
Yes, absolutely. So it's quite different for me now, to be honest, because I'm now more mature. I'm now more centered. I know my roots, and I know who I am. But
Mm-hmm.
early on, when you graduate from law school, you're finishing up you just did your articling, and you're quite young. You're vulnerable. You're learning the law. You don't really know your place
Mm-hmm.
in this profession, and you get challenged by the stereotypes from all directions. It comes from the court, it can come from judges, it can come from crowns, it can come from our colleagues, it can come from our clients, because you're young looking and you're a woman. So
Yeah.
people, that in any situation, it's not a power card. Like now it is for me, but I'm like, that's my superpower. But people look at you and they say, is she good enough? Can she
Is
handle
she
it?
qualified to be here?
Yeah, so they challenge you for the way you look. So you learn to put on a certain persona. You learn to, like, there's a performative aspect of being a criminal defensor, and you learn that with time, because just because you look a certain way, you sound a certain way, doesn't speak to your ability to defend someone or do a good job on the case, right? We're obviously very hardworking people. That's how we end up in these situations. But these stereotypes, I have some horrific stories, and I won't get into it because I feel
Yeah,
like
of
I
course.
always I always talk about these things. But I've had some really difficult situations where in the courthouse I've been challenged as a criminal defense lawyer, where I'm always deemed to be someone's sibling out to
Oh,
help them on their bail, or the Urdu or Punjabi interpreter, or someone's
like
assistant.
not seen as a lawyer.
Not seen as a lawyer, because well, when you imagine a lawyer, you imagine a white man in a suit. You don't imagine a brown woman with some makeup on, or whatever the case may be. It's definitely not a pregnant brown woman as your criminal defense lawyer. It's not a powerhouse look, right? But then now I don't care. Even while during my pregnancy, I'm going to the courthouse, I embrace my power, because it comes from my preparation of the case, my trust with the client, my study of like the law. All of that comes. It's not about how you look. And early on, I got fixated on the way I look, because people, without even speaking to me, would judge me for the way I am,
Yeah.
how smart I was, how capable I was. And that still haunts you a little bit here, because I still have a little bit. I'm not that older looking, so I think youth is actually sort of not in your favor in this profession, because you're
Oh.
looking youthful, you're looking feminine. But now I encourage women to just be you, be authentic. Do not pretend, or do not try to be a white man like once I did. And my sort of turning point was that encounter when a male lawyer actually physically stopped me, a white male lawyer, from entering a lawyer's lounge. So in courthouses, there's lawyer's lounge. Some of the good courthouses actually have lawyer's lounge. You need an access card to get in. I was wearing a suit. I was in the middle of something quite hectic with the client. I was having a rough day, frankly. And the lawyer physically stopped me and he said, "Hey, the lounge is only for lawyers." And I was like, what makes you think I'm not a lawyer? Like that day, and then before that, I would have just smiled or something. And I was like, you know what? I've had it. Like, I've just had it with people doing this to me. Because
Yeah, of
you're
course.
busy doing your work. I want to focus on the client and the work I'm doing. I don't want this hostile interaction or people policing my
Yeah, you're
body,
just as
policing me.
deserving to be there.
Of
Yeah.
course, and I don't want to have to prove myself all the time to another man. So, and I think that person, because I spoke back, he felt quite embarrassed. But I just didn't need that hostile interaction. That's one example of things I have experienced. But in the courtrooms, I've constantly been referred to as someone's assistant. Like, obviously, a racialized woman standing next to a white man is only his subordinate or only someone who can assist. You cannot be a lawyer. So those things like chip away at you when you're already insecure. And I think those are the things that lead to a lot of women leaving this profession because
Yeah.
it's so hard. The profession is tough on its own. The work is so stressful. And then you're getting all this backlash
Like
from
extra, like,
yeah, from
unnecessary. Yeah.
exactly. And clients also think of you a certain way. A lot of clients want men to defend them.
Yeah.
So all of that kind of comes to play. So you have to have grit to keep on going. But once you sort of get to that breakthrough point, you don't really give a crap after that
Yeah,
point.
no, of course.
Yeah, but it takes time to get there, and it takes time to build your voice. And I think it's so much pressure for us to have that voice. Like, when is it going to come? And everyone builds that at their own pace. And it's difficult for young women because society attacks us from all formats, right? From our body image, for like not to take up space, to look a
Yeah.
certain way, to act a certain way, to speak a certain way. Our voice is too high, our voice is too low. Just like we're just never good enough in all aspects. And in this profession, then it gets, because it's so male
Yeah.
dominated, it get enhanced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, no, unfortunately, that has been the truth. And this is not the first time, like, I'm hearing about this either. And I'm sure it's not going to be the first time for a lot of people. A lot of people, like, as women, we all already face these. Like, maybe not in, like, well, as a student, maybe not yet in a courtroom or anything, but like growing up, like in our own workplaces or as students, we still face those, which unfortunately. But yeah, like you said, it's very good to hold your ground and make sure, like, you're just to remind yourself that you're just as deserving and capable of being there. Like you did which is funny to me because like you do the same studies, you do the same practices, you do all of the same like similar steps that other male lawyers are doing. So I don't know what gives them the right to like think like that,
Yeah.
but it's good that we're breaking the stereotypes. Like you're breaking the stereotypes and proving them wrong as one of as a great female leader. And speaking of voices, I know you said you also deal with mentorship. And so I just was wondering how that is very important to you, because also being a part of Wicked and being so beautifully outspoken. So, like, what do you think is important about mentorship, and if you would like to share about that a bit?
Yes, absolutely. I think mentorship is very, very important for young
Yeah.
women because you need to see someone else doing something you strive to do. That's
Yeah,
very, very
exactly,
important. I didn't have a mentor when I was doing any of the process of going from undergrad to master's to law school, even through law school. And anytime I would see a racialized woman practicing criminal defense law, I would get so excited. And you shouldn't be saying that in this day and age, but I would just feel like, wow, she's doing it, I can do it too. And
No, yeah,
mentorship,
of course.
yeah, and mentorship is important because there's so many. What ends up happening is there's formal mentorship needed for the law part of it, practice challenges, and from the academic side of it. But really, the true mentorship comes when a young woman, can come to you with an issue that they feel like they can share with you in a safe space, like the challenges they're having, because our profession is about advocating on behalf of others, right? So you cannot air out your vulnerabilities and sort of your insecurities. You can't project them because if you can't advocate for yourself, how can you be expected to protect the rights of someone else? So a lot of people sort of close in on some of the things they might be experiencing. They don't challenge people, they don't push back. And if you don't talk to someone else about it, a trusted colleague, then you can kind of just like it could start eating you up alive, and you can start leaving the profession. Because why do something that's so painful and so difficult if you're not getting the outcome that you want, the gratification you want? I mean, you're constantly being challenged. So mentorship allows people. It could be even something so simple as someone reaching out to me, a young woman, saying, I'm experiencing this. And I could just say, hey, you know what? I experienced this 5 years ago. You will get through it. This is how you can handle it. This is someone else you can speak to who just went through it. Just stick it out. We're here for you. Sometimes that's all you really need. And that could go such a long way. I volunteer as a mentor through different organizations, but at the same time I do a lot of informal mentorship because a lot of women reach out to me for guidance, and I don't unfortunately have the time to speak to all of them, but whoever I speak to, I always try to make the time to speak to them, not only just when they're lawyers, but sometimes even students when they need a bit of guidance, they feel lost. And I think it's very, very important because you need encouragement. You need someone to tell you that it will be okay, that your situation is not something that can hold you back. Like, flip it around, use it to your advantage.
No, definitely. And nowadays, I'm so glad that mentorship has actually been growing a lot with coffee chats existing and platforms like LinkedIn where individuals can reach out to other people and find people that they could use as a role model. Personally, me, I have a couple of mentors. Like, I'm at work, like my manager is a woman, and I look up to her a lot, like, because my profession, I guess, it's not necessarily a male-dominated field, but it is a hard profession with all sorts of clients and all of those. So it's like it's just very nice to have somebody that you can look up to and talk to, because it's like they've been through it as well. So that like reinforces that you're not alone at all. And I was just wondering, how have we like your challenges faced the way that you are as a criminal defense lawyer in this profession? Like, how you go about it?
So how do I tackle the challenges that I face? So number one thing for me is preparation. My focus is I'm not a model. I'm not here to be judged for how I look, how, I have an accent, get over it. It's not about any of that. And I used to get fixated by all of that, right? But now my goal is preparation for my client. It's not about me. It's about my client. I'm there for a purpose. Someone is trusting me with their life and with their case. And people can have all sorts of expectations from me, or they can try to put me down in whatever ways. But as long as I know my focus, as long as I know the reason I'm there, I will do a good job. And my goal is to prepare for the case, know what I'm supposed to do, and everything else becomes fluff. Okay, everything else becomes irrelevant, because when you're prepared, you gain you gain the respect by doing good work. And that's one way of doing it. The other thing is now I realize that I will never be a white man, so I should just like tune in and be my feminine brown person that I am, feminine or masculine, whatever that is. But I can just be me. I don't need to be validated all the time. I'm not here to be liked. I will never be liked. People will always find flaws in me. They will think, oh, who does she think she is? Your experience is so unique. You're just a woman, and like it's not a big deal to people. And I'm open about sharing my vulnerabilities and my hideous moments, and people find that surprising, because it's not easy to share that if someone stopped me physically and this happened, and there's other things. But I think it's very important to talk about it, because it normalizes the things. I don't want to normalize the experience, but normalize the sense of vulnerability and being speechless and knowing that it's a journey. You go through it, and then with time you will find a way to make it work. You'll find your own voice. So I think going through all of that and remembering the reasons, remembering my roots, remembering I'm an immigrant kid, like I can get through anything. Right. Exactly. Like I don't need people might come from all these cushiony backgrounds, but I come from nothing. And you make something of your life, that's commendable. So you remember that. I remember my family in tough moments. I remember all the things that are beyond this one shallow like silo vacuum situation. Like life is much bigger. We live in such a dynamic world. So having perspective, and I think that comes with age. So that's why I love getting older, because the older I get, I'm so much more comfortable, because you transition from becoming a girl to a woman, and every year you transition from like a more like a woman and women.
I know.
It becomes I'm so much comfortable in my skin, and now that I have a daughter and I'm pregnant with my second baby, I just feel like I can do anything, because a mother is just it's just you're just like you no one can
Yeah,
stop you, like
exactly.
the fierceness and the ability to push through in situations I could not have appreciated until I went through it. The resilience that women have, I'm just like I'm baffled by it, and you don't
Yeah.
appreciate it until you don't go through it. So I think going through all of that and all those experiences have certainly helped me. So there's no one thing, it's a
You know,
culmination.
no, yeah, definitely. That's, and I feel like that's how it should be, because if it was just one thing,
Mm-hmm.
then it would be too simple, right? There's like so many different situations that you need to tackle, and so many different parts of yourself, and so many different parts of your work that you need to like make balance or make it work, which makes sense why
Right.
there's different aspects to it. So, how would you say you define success? Like, do you think is it just by like after you use the tactics, do you think it's just by winning the cases, or is there anything else that makes you define success in your role?
So, in criminal defense law, winning a case is not as simple as winning or losing,
Mm-hmm.
because the verdict is really, is this person, can be they be found guilty or not guilty of this criminal offense. So that's not necessarily always about winning. Sometimes people, sometimes it's not in our favor, for the client's favor, to actually go to trial. Sometimes we need to resolve cases because that's in the best
Like
interest of
settle?
the client. Yeah, resolve it in a way that everything but a trial. So it's not on the face of it, it's not always these hostile interactions and lengthy trials. The wins are to deliver to the client what they really need. For example, last week I did something very small. It wasn't even a criminal case, but I assisted a client on a matter where he could not afford to do a trial, where he could not afford to lose his driver's license because he has 5 kids and he has huge
Yeah.
responsibilities. And my ability to get him an outcome that did not involve a driver's suspension, like I felt like on top of the world when I was able to do it, because I kept hitting the dead end with the crown. I ended up going to the courthouse just to plead with them to say, you know what, this person lives in a certain part of the community. He needs to be able to drive. He needs to work for his family. To present someone's case in a way
Yeah.
and get the outcome for them, it's such a humbling experience. And those are the moments that count. It's not the big cases, the jury trials, all of that. Every case is very important, but it's the everyday outcome we're able to get for our clients. That's very, very important for me. And that to me is success, because last week when I did that, I felt so happy for him, and I just imagined his kids' smiles and being able to have that impact in his life. So those are the moments that really stick with you. And then he called me a miracle worker and a golden heart, and it's just like,
Aw.
those words, you just feel so
Yeah.
good. You don't ask for it, you don't go fishing for it. You feel so. It's honestly a true honor to have that. But those moments are short lived because you move on to the next thing,
The next
and then
one.
the intensity increases. But it's really, that's what success is, being able to calm people down in such stressful situations, gaining their trust and helping them navigate the criminal justice system, which is very, very intimidating, because it's you versus like all, like the crown, the police,
Yeah.
the resources, the government. So it's very, very daunting. And sometimes you only have your criminal defense lawyer by your side, who might be the only person that you can trust, who's in your corner. People don't even have family members sometimes. So that is what success is, being there for someone and delivering a result, and working within the limitations that we have often in this profession.
Yeah, because like as you also mentioned in the beginning, everybody comes from a different background, from different circumstances. So success does not necessarily mean winning the case, but getting the best solution for that client,
Hmm.
which I'm sure that also feels really good. So thank you for that. And I just have one last question. As we were talking about like the criminal justice, the crown, and all of those, what would you think is one thing you would change about the criminal justice if you could?
So there's a lot of things I would like to change. Obviously, we can go on and on about it, but one thing, broadly speaking, I would say is just access to justice. And what that means is sometimes people are not able to get the legal representation that they need and they deserve,
Yeah.
because they don't qualify for legal aid, but they might not have enough money to retain a lawyer. And so many times it breaks my heart to turn people away because they're not able to retain me, or I'm not able to assist, and that really could be quite, it's quite painful, because everyone deserves legal
Yeah.
representation, and they deserve good legal representation. And for someone not to have that and sort of just go out and self-represent themselves without knowing how does the system work, what is disclosure, who is the crown, what are my rights, it's very it just breaks my heart, honestly, because it's you see that all the time, unfortunately. And I think everyone should have a right to proper legal representation, and it's unfortunately not in our control because we don't set the rules for legal aid Ontario. But they should be reflective of the world we live in, because anyone charged with a small crime or a big crime, they need to have a lawyer by their side. They need the
Yeah, 100%.
representation.
Yeah.
And there's different things you have a right to a lawyer of choice, counsel of choice. So you should be able to choose the lawyer that you trust, who maybe sometimes speaks your language or understands your cultural background. So that is something I think we need to change, and people don't. The public doesn't appreciate that because people just see crimes are happening, and then everyone gets a lawyer and they get the proper representation needed. But there's a big gap in that, and I would like to see changes in that, but I think that's long ways away from happening, unfortunately.
Yeah, 100%. No, that makes complete sense. Um, well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for all of those. Is there anything that you would like to speak to us about in regards that I haven't touched upon or I haven't asked about?
No, I want to congratulate you for this wonderful group. I think it's so important for young women to be inspired and to want to become lawyers. So for anyone who's watching, I would strongly encourage you to keep on pursuing your dreams, pursue your goals, even if they're very, very tough. Go for it. Like, just be like me. You cry if you need to, do what you need to, but you keep on going. The whole point is do it while your teeth are shattering and your legs are shaking. So many things in my life I've done when I felt not prepared or felt like I'm not good enough or it's never going to happen. You still go for it. Don't doubt yourself. And even if you doubt yourself, have your tribe. Be someone who can make things happen and know it, because you have to be your biggest champion. This world is going to try to tear you apart or make you feel like why you can't do the things you do. So be your best friend. Lay out all your goals in a piece of paper. Figure out a timeline. Take ownership of your life. Because I want to see more women in this profession. I want everyone to be here sitting where I'm sitting, you someday back at York University, and then encouraging other young women to do it. So keep on having these conversations. I think they're very, very important, and they could be very inspiring for someone who might be going through what I went through, a student trying to figure it out. So and reach out for help. If you need help, get the help you need. There's always help. There's always people going through what you might be going through, or someone who's willing to help you out. So I look forward to all the other women who'll be joining us in this profession, including you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm super excited. I still have a long way to go, but I can't wait to, like you said, tackle it. But yeah, this association, I'm also very grateful for it. It started last year, and it's received a lot of good, positive, reviews and just views from everybody that goes to York and even other universities. So like the resources like these, like the mentorships and all of those, like what you're doing with VicKid are very much needed nowadays. And that's one thing that we've touched upon too. Like, it's just something that's very good because it shows that growth, and everybody's expanding.
Absolutely.
And everybody from different backgrounds is coming together and sharing their experiences. And it's just a very I know it's different from when you were doing it, because I've heard they weren't that many clubs like this or anything.
No, I didn't have anything, and I would have loved to, because I've spoken on panels, and I wished as a student that I actually attended a panel where women were talking about these things and the challenges, and I think it would have helped me out so much. So I'm so grateful that people like you are doing the work you're doing, because it makes such a big difference.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and we'll continue doing that. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We had a very amazing discussion, and I hope everybody that's watching enjoyed. We're so grateful. Thank you. We also had her for our first ever panel last year, so this is such a great.
I love that panel. That panel was so much fun.
Was so fun.
We went so raw on it. It was great.
I hope we have more events like that soon. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. I hope you guys enjoyed, and can't wait for the next episode. Bye.
Bye.